Hello, this is Ms. DB, and in this video we are going to look at how to do some of the problems from the slope-intercept form of a line assignment. We are going to graph using slope-intercept form and identify slope and y-intercept from equations. Here we have an example that says how to graph by using slope and y-intercept. So sometimes you will be given the slope and the y-intercept, and we can use that to graph what the line would look like. The first step is always to put the y-intercept on the graph. So here we see that the y-intercept is 4, so they put a point at 0, 4. That first point was right there. Then you figure out the slope. Since they gave us the slope as an integer, -2, and we know slope is a fraction, rise over run, we need to add the over 1. -2 is the same as -2 over 1, so we write it that way. Then we apply that to the point we just graphed. So we start with the point we just graphed at 0, 4, and the slope is to go down to 1, 2, and then to the right 1. And then you put a new point. And then your third step is to draw a line through the points and going beyond them on both sides. Here's another example. This is not on your worksheet, it's just one I made for this video. So it says graph the line with slope of 3 and a y-intercept of -6. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the point of the y-intercept of 0, -6 right here. So I'm going to grab a pen tool here, and there is that point right there. Then the next step would be to put the slope, but the slope is written as an integer, 3, so I just need to put that over 1 so that I know what the rise and the run would be. So my computer froze there, but let's see if it picked up. So the slope is 3 over 1, and so from the point you just graphed, you would go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1, and then put a new point. Since it's a +3, we have a rise of 3, and since it's the right one, you would go to the right one. And then you would draw a line through those points. So I'm just going to grab a line tool. That's not a line tool. Erase that mess. Try that again. I'm trying to insert a shape and I'm going to get a line. Let's see if this works. Well, one of my points came back. Okay, so I have a point at -6, and I have a point that is up 3 from that and over 1, and then you would draw a line through the point and extending in both directions, something like that. You are going to, instead of drawing your own, because you saw that was a bit of a challenge, you are going to match the 3 lines that are already graphed with their correct slope and y-intercept. So you will be matching these 3 with these 3. So you'll be answering A, B, or C for each of these. Then there's some where you just have to name the slope and the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is pretty straightforward. In this one, it is 2. And the slope, we find the slope by picking any nice 2 points on the graph. So maybe I want to pick this point because it looks like that's a nice integer coordinate, and let's use this point. And then find the slope. We looked at that last week. You can either use a slope formula or you can make a slope triangle. To make a slope triangle, I would go straight down and then straight over, and I can see that my rise is 1 and my run is 1. So the slope is going to be 1 over 1, except it's going downhill. So I should have wrote -1 over 1, or you can just write -1 because that simplifies to -1. And the y-intercept is 2, so you would type that in as well. Let's look at another one. Let's look at 6, 7, and 8. Their lines A, B, and C. Let's look at C. No, let's look at, which one's a little funny? Look at A, because in A, the y-intercept is not 1 and it's not 2, it's in between there. So I would say that the y-intercept is like 1.3. The slope now, we are still going to pick nice, neat points as we can. So I like this point up here, and I'm trying to find points that are right through integer. And we can make the slope triangle above instead of below the line. And then I can see that my slope goes up 2, so it'd have a rise of 2, and a run of, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So it'd be 2/3, but it's negative because it's going downhill again. So this would be negative 2/3 for the slope. And if you're typing, you would type that as negative 2/3. And you'll do the same thing for B and C. B is a positive slope because it's going uphill from left to right, and so is C. They're both going to be positive slopes. And then for the next section, you are going to take an equation that is written in slope-intercept form. So it's written in slope-intercept form if you have y equals a number, that's the slope, times x, plus another number. So the number in front of the x is the slope. The number added or subtracted from the end is the y-intercept. So for example, they say a line has a slope of -4 and a y-intercept of 3. Write the equation. So we would replace m with -4 because that's slope, and b with 3 because that's the y-intercept, and now your new equation is y equals -4x plus 3. In our first few problems, we are going to look at the equation and name the slope and y-intercept, and then you'll write the equation. Let's do 11. 11 says y equals 7/3 x plus 1. The slope is the number in front of the x, so it would be 7/3. Do not write the x, just the number in front of the x. The y-intercept is the number added or subtracted from the end. If it's added, you write 1. If in like number 10 it's negative, you'd write -8 for that one. Then in 12, 13, and 14, you are going to write y equals mx plus b, except instead of m, you will put what the slope is. So in this one, the slope is 1/4, and the y-intercept is 3. So you replace m with the slope and b with the y-intercept. I'm going to make this so it all fits on one page. Then finally, we are going to use the slope and y-intercept to graph a line. So that's kind of like what we did at first. If the equation of the line is not written in slope-intercept form, you would first need to rewrite it by solving for y. Once you solve for y, it will now be in slope-intercept form, and then you can figure out what is the slope. It's the number in front of the x, even if it's a fraction, that's fine. And then the y-intercept is the number added or subtracted from the end. And then you graph by first putting on the y-intercept and then applying the slope. So in this one, they graphed up 2 because they found the y-intercept was 2, and then they did a slope of -1/3, so down 1 and to the right 3, put another point, and then draw a line through and extending beyond the points. So on your worksheet, you are going to be given some equations, and you are going to graph them. Let's look at number 16. So in 16, it says graph y equals -1/5 x plus 7. So I'm going to resize this so you can see the top of the word tools has an insert button, and I'm going to go to shapes, and I'm going to just get a little circle. Basic shapes, and I'll pick a little oval circle. And I'm going to start by putting a little circle dot at 7 because the y-intercept is 7. So I go here and I want it to be right on the y-axis, so I'm just going to make a tiny little circle. And you can pick a color to fill it in if you want. So there's my little point. And you can change the settings if you don't like the way that looks. It's a little bit far over, but it's going to be close enough for me. Okay, then I'm going to apply the slope. The slope says it's -1/5, so that means to go down 1 from that point and then to the right 5. I'm going to get another point though to put where it goes. So I'm going to go down 1, that'd be me here, and then over to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to put another point. And again, if you want to color it in or something, go ahead. And those are my 2 points. And now you have to draw a line through there. So I'm going to get the line tool, and I'm going to go through these points, and then I'm going to drag it up farther because I want it to go through and beyond the points. I don't just want to start and stop at the points. And that's the graph of y equals -1/5 x plus 7. And note that in number 18, the graph of the line y equals 5 has 0 for a slope. This is going to be a horizontal line that goes right through y equals 5 because the slope it's 0, so you don't go up, so it doesn't have a run. So it just is going to be the horizontal line right through y equals 5. All right, put that back where it goes. And then I cut the last one off a little bit, but you will write this first in slope-intercept form, and to do that you would subtract 2x from both sides, because if you're to solve by y, we did this in quarter 1, so that I can get y by itself, then I would have y equals negative 2x plus 3. If we write it that way, then we'll see that the y-intercept is 3, and the slope would be negative 2 over 1. So that'll help you graph that one. All right, that's everything. Thanks for hanging in here, and let me know if you have any questions.